This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Welcome to Usapang Bayan. Ako po si George Chua kasama ang aking co-host na si Rach Marquez. Pag-uusapan po natin ang maraming iba't ibang pangyayari dito sa ating bayan.
Makakasama po natin sa gabing ito para pag-usapan ang status ng American businesses sa bansa, American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines Senior Advisor, Mr. John Forbes. Good evening, sir.
Welcome to our show, John, and a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah, good evening, George and Rach. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you.
Well, maybe before we should start, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you came to be in the Philippines, what you've been doing here, how long you've been here, and so on.
Well, that could be a long story.
We've got time, we've got time.
I've been here quite a while, so I'm beginning to feel very Filipino. When I came out to Asia with the U.S. government, with the U.S. State Department in 1968, I never imagined that I would wind up as an expatriate. But I was in Vietnam for 2 years, and then after that I wanted to stay in Southeast Asia, and I was assigned in the early 70s to the U.S. Embassy in Manila. So then I came back a second time in the mid-80s. And that occasion I married a lovely Filipina, and been married now for 30 years, and we had 2 children, and they've been educated here. So I've been here continuously on my 3rd time coming here since 1966. So I came as a diplomat, and I returned as a business consultant, and I'm still working.
I know you're involved in 2 basic organizations. Of course, the first one is the American Chamber, and the other one is Arrancada Filipinas.
Yes, I'm in both of those.
Yes, so maybe can you tell us a little bit about these 2 organizations and your involvement in each?
Well, the American Chamber is a very old U.S. business organization. It has been here since 1902. It was initially organized by a group of American businessmen down at an establishment called Clark's on Escolta. And subsequently it joined the largest business group in the world, which is called the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in the United States, right opposite the White House. In fact, if you go, the next time you're in Washington and you're down there in front of the White House, turn around, walk across the park, go into the lobby of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and you'll see a huge brass plaque up which lists the members in whatever the year was, like 1925. And Manila is there right above Memphis. So except during the Second World War, when our members were interned at Santo Tomas, organized American business under the American Chamber has been active now for over a century. But American business has been here much earlier, going back to the time of the clipper ships, when one of them sailed in from Salem, Massachusetts, straight into Manila Bay, loaded up with raw sugar, and took it back to New England. And we have at AmCham about 750 members. There are also chapters in Cebu, and one in Mindanao, AmCham Mindanao, and one organized most recently in Central Luzon, which captures people that may be working at Clark, or it is based at Clark, Subic, and up in Baguio. The other Arancada is a much more recent activity that goes back to something AmCham did with the Joint Foreign Chambers, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Korea, Japan, European, and the Regional Headquarters Association, where we identified the top sectors where the Philippine economy could grow: agribusiness, business processing, creative industries, infrastructure, manufacturing, logistics, mining, and tourism. And we had 9 focus group discussions with investors, asking what were the challenges, what were the recommendations to solve the challenges, and put them into a book, 400 pages. We released the book in December of 2010. So what were we going to call the book? Roadmap, that was a term that was overused. And a young man in my office, when I said, what is a term to go fast? And he said, Belize. And then I wanted to use that for a title. He says, no, sir. I suggest you use Arancada. So we use that, Arancada Philippines, and I remember former Director General of PESA, Lilia de Lima, when we launched the book, she was president with the Secretary of Trade and the head of BOI at TTI, and she says, John, I really like that term, because it's a term that a jeepney driver uses when he's loaded up with chickens and pigs and people, et cetera, and he's about to stall as he goes up a hill. He has to downshift and give it the gas and says, Arancada. So it's a good image for reform advocacies, get more investment into these sectors, create more jobs, and get to the top of the hill, right? So we're trying to accelerate, and there have been lots of results. We can talk about some of those results if you like.
Well, sir, you've already introduced to us what AmCham is all about. Can you tell us what your objectives are in the organization?
Well, I've been with AmCham since I returned in 1996. I was even they have a small category of overseas members, so I joined AmCham when I first started as a business consultant. I was based in Washington, D.C. But when I moved back, my wife and I moved back here in 1996. I volunteered to chair the legislative committee at AmCham because I had some legislative experience in Washington, D.C., working with the U.S. Congress. And there are a lot of similarities between the Philippine Congress and the U.S. Congress. So I've been chairing the legislative committee of AmCham, and I've been a director of AmCham at times. I've also been the treasurer of AmCham. So I'm really one of the folks around AmCham who's been there and people are familiar with, along with people like Rob Sears, who was our executive director, or Eb Hinchcliffe, who's our current executive director.
Sir, the United States elected its new president, and his proposed policies concern many, especially the business sector. How does American Chamber view how the Trump presidency will affect businesses all over the world?
Well, I think we're trying to understand it and watch it. Our mission statement is to promote trade and investment of mutual interest between the two countries. And let's be clear, AmCham is not closed to Filipino members or non-American members. About half our members are Filipino companies or Filipinos who are active in American companies. So we have been very interested in openness and globalization, not closing borders, not raising tariffs. We support the American companies that are here and very much want them to expand both their employment and their investments in the country. And we're very interested in new opportunities, liberalization of the economy, such as those that are being proposed by the Duterte Administration to amend the economic restrictions of the Constitution or amend the Public Services Act, the Retail Trade Act, to open up new opportunities to get in more investment. Now, the thing that concerns people a lot is these so-called End the Offshoring Act, which is being discussed, but none of us have seen the actual text of that or know how that's going to be done. So far, the election of President Trump has not had a direct effect here, except I might say with his executive action to end U.S. participation in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Philippines wasn't in that. The Philippines in the Aquino administration had said that when it came into effect, the Philippines would want to be in the forefront of countries like Thailand and Korea, perhaps even Indonesia, that applied to join the TPP. So TPP is off the table, except that the Prime Minister of Australia and the Prime Minister of Japan have said that they might try to go forward. They want to explore with the other 9 members, that's 12 minus 1 with the U.S. out, the possibility of having negotiated this agreement over a period of 10 years, actually implementing it among themselves. Philippines should pay attention to that, because the Philippines may be able to join the TPP if it goes forward that way. The other thing to watch out for is that since President Trump and some of his key economic people have said they want to do bilateral trade agreements. Most recently, the new chairman of the National Trade Council, an academic out of the University of California by the name of Peter Navarro, has said it's not true that with the withdrawing from TPP means that the U.S. has surrendered the trade arena to China with the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, because the Trump administration will proceed to negotiate bilateral trade agreements, and he listed Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, and Malaysia. He didn't mention Vietnam, which is the other Asian, or Brunei, or Singapore. Singapore has a free trade agreement with the United States, as do Australia and New Zealand. So I would hope that if President Trump is in favor of bilateral trade agreements, that the Philippines would get into that first group. That would be very important, I think.
Well, at this point, John, we'll have to have a station break. Sa amin pong pagbabalik, makakasama pa rin natin si AmCham Senior Advisor, Mr. John Forbes. Please stay tuned.
It's hard to watch that.